of Sloppy Saturdays. And today we are going over our college football playoff predictions yet again. We're going over what's going to happen in the conference championship, what we think is going to happen, and how these teams should be evaluated, who should be left out. Now, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I have said it time and time again. I do not think the way they work this college football playoff bracket is perfect. I do think they did a better job with the seeding this year for sure, because the route Oregon had to go through last year as the number one seed, it was just unfair. It's like they shouldn't even wanted the number one seed. Now the seedings are a little better, but I still think it should be at the end of the year who is 1 through 12 in the rankings. That should be the 12 teams in the college football playoffs, the final 1 to 12 rankings. If it's a bad conference year like the ACC, we shouldn't feel the need to put somebody in from a conference by default just to represent that conference. And then also, as well, the group of five to me is completely ridiculous. If you have an eye test and you think a group of five team should really compete in the college football playoffs, they would be in the top 12 of rankings. I get it. You can't really fault somebody for getting everything they done on their schedule, like a group of five team. But we know when the group of five team plays in the first round of the college football playoffs, that's going to be a major double-digit spread. That's almost as good as a bye, might even be better because you get to play a week and not take the week off. So, again, that's how I think the college football playoffs should end up being. I think they're making it way too hard. It should simply be the final 1 to 12 in the college football rankings at the end of the year. Now, we're going to go over the conference championships. Now, I really don't think a conference championship should hurt you in the rankings if you do lose. But again, we know that's not always the case. If you don't stay in the game, if you get blown out, whatever the case may be, and it could certainly help you for sure. It's definitely going to help with buys. We're going to talk about how these conference championships are going to go, in my opinion. We're going to go over the matchups. Now, first off, we have North Texas, Tulane. That's going to be the group of five matchup. I personally like North Texas in this matchup. Again, I think North Texas is a more complete team. I think, again, Tulane not being the favorites in this matchup, being the ranked team, I think is a little trappy as well. I think North Texas does come out of it. Now, again, whatever team comes out of this is going to get the last seed in the college football playoffs. So now we market our predictions at the number 12 spot, North Texas. It's really North Texas / Tulane, but the group of five team is at our number 12 spot. Then all the way at the bottom at the end of the Saturday is going to be Duke, Virginia. I personally like Duke in this matchup. Again, it's so crazy how Duke was able to get into the ACC championship. You're looking at a 7-5 team, but again, it goes to the conference record. I like Duke in this matchup for sure. I think Darian Mensah is a game changer. And again, I think the line's a little trappy. Again, a very close line with UVA. It's only a 3-point line. Again, UVA is a 10-2 team. Duke is a 7-5 team. A little trappy there. I think Duke somehow pulls some voodoo magic and makes it in. Now we are going to get into the SEC championship. We have Georgia, Alabama in this matchup. Now, me personally, I really do like Ty Simpson. I told you guys how much I love Ty Simpson. But I feel like the state right now Georgia is at with health and chemistry. You guys know I don't really like Georgia as much as other people do. I think Georgia, again, has a little late voodoo magic in a lot of their games that end up getting them wins. I don't see complete domination like I've seen in past years from Georgia teams. And I don't think this defense is as talented as past years as well. But with all that being said, I don't really like the state Alabama's at right now either. I think their run game is super inconsistent. I really despise how they're using Ryan Williams. I don't know if something's wrong with him. I don't know if they just don't know how to use him. But him not getting targets in the Auburn game, are we kidding? Like, again, one of the most talented players in the country. So with all that being considered, and the O-line for Alabama has been all over the place. Again, do I think Alabama has the better quarterback? Yes. Do I think they have slightly better weapons? Sure. But I think the consistency of Georgia, I like them a little more in this matchup. And the thing that I really like about Georgia in this matchup is I think it's very hard to beat the same team twice in a season unless you're head and shoulders above a team. And I don't think either of these teams are head and shoulders above each other. I think Georgia right now with the state they're at and how hard it is to beat a team twice, I'm going to take Georgia in this matchup. And I think it's very big too because I think the winner of this gets a bye and the loser does not. So if Georgia wins this matchup, we have Georgia at our 2 seed as the SEC champion. Now we're getting into BYU Texas Tech. Again, I think the same matchup that BYU just flat out can't hang in. I have a hot take with BYU, though. I think BYU is still going to be in competition for a college football playoff spot regardless. I think if BYU doesn't make the college football playoffs, it's really bad for the state of college football because I believe if you're a one-loss Power 4 team, again, I'm saying one loss because I don't count the conference championship as a regular season loss. I don't count it as a loss going into the college football playoffs. I feel like, again, making the conference playoffs shouldn't really hurt you, but we all know it does because if you don't win it, it drops you. But I think BYU having one loss in a Power 4 and basically handling everybody they could. I know Texas Tech is a horrible matchup for them. I know Texas Tech is way better than them. And I know that BYU has its limitations with Bear Backamare and how they go up. Their offense goes up against a really solid defense. And again, I don't expect this game to be close. I expect Texas Tech actually, if they win this, to get the last bye at the 4 spot. I think they should. I think they're super talented. I said it time and time again. I think they're pretty much like an underhyped Indiana, just the way that team was built. And again, them not being one of the programs you really think of in the middle of the college football playoffs, and they have been lights out this year. That's going to be a blowout. I think Texas Tech is, like I said, is going to get the fourth bye. The fourth bye for me is really in consideration. It could go a lot of different ways. You could give it to a one-loss SEC team as well, but I think Texas Tech honestly deserves it. I think they're a great football team. I think they're so balanced. I think they could run the ball. I think they could pass it at every single level. I think their defense is absolutely legit. Again, let me stop glazing them. But what I wanted to say, though, is I think hot take BYU is still in consideration for the college football playoffs. Again, do I really think it's going to happen? No, but I'm really doing my rankings on what I think deserves to happen. And I think BYU deserves a college football playoff spot either way. Then we're going to get into in our conference championships, Indiana, Ohio State. Hot take in this matchup, and it's not really even a hot take. As long as Indiana stays in this game, or again, if Indiana wins and if Ohio State stays in this game, I think both teams get a bye. I really do believe both teams get a bye. I mean, you're looking at two undefeated Big Ten teams. I think both deserve a bye. My prediction is obviously Ohio State kind of lays over them pretty easily. I think there is no team that could even compete with Ohio State right now. I think last week with that Michigan spread, I thought that was an absolute joke. I thought that was actually insane. Like Ohio State is head and shoulders above everybody else. Michigan, again, in my opinion, was not even a college football playoff team going into that game. Strict limitations, and again, you're putting that spread at what? What did it finish at? A flat 10? Ohio State minus 10? That spread should have been at least 16. You're giving way too much credit to a rivalry game, way too much credit in the last 4 years of history because when it comes down to it, when you completely lay over a team like that, again, I thought Michigan had no shot in this game at all. I mean, I had that Ohio State minus 10 spread when Michigan was up 6-0, and I still thought it was a complete lock of the last 2 years. But again, I think Ohio State is going to win this game comfortably. The only thing I'm a little nervous about is how many people are going to be on Ohio State. But again, I'm very similar where I think the books just have to adjust to it. I don't think it even matters. I think Ohio State is just head and shoulders above everybody, and I think they're going to get it done. Again, my prediction, Ohio State does land that one spot. And then I think Indiana moves down to the 3 spot. I think the SEC champion is going to go above them. I think it's going to be Georgia. So that's what I think lays out. Now, I'm going to get into first my teams outside the bubble, and then I'll go over my official ranking. So outside the bubble, first team I have outside the bubble, this is a hot take because like I said, I think BYU deserves to be in. First team I have outside the bubble is Oklahoma. I do not want to see Oklahoma in this college football playoffs. I think Oklahoma, in my opinion, has more limitations than anybody in college football playoff contention. I think after that John Mateer injury, you see they're barely scraping out of games on offense. They beat Missouri 17-6. They beat LSU 17-13. They were on the ropes of that game. They do have probably, again, one of the most impressive wins against Alabama, 23-21. But again, over the last 2 weeks, they haven't been able to get anything going on offense. I do think their defense is absolutely legit, but the strict limitations with John Mateer right now, they aren't really able to gash the run running the football, and they don't really throw downfield much, and the downfield throwing accuracy with John Mateer, strictly limited. I get it, they're a 2-loss team in the SEC, but we only have 12 spots. Do I think they're one of the best 12 teams in the country? Probably. But like I said, you got to put Duke in, you got to put North Texas in. Again, whether whoever wins those games, but you got to put an ACC champion and the group of 5 team in as well. So Oklahoma is my first team out. I know it's going to be a hot take. They're probably going to get in, but that's who I deserve to be. I deserve to be the first team out. The second team out, who I actually think would beat Oklahoma in head to head, and I think they're a better team than Oklahoma, but based on their resume, to me, they're the second team out, is Miami. Again, Miami, very hot take. They should be in over Notre Dame. A lot of people think. I personally don't think that. I think the thing you have to consider with Notre Dame, one, how much they beat the piss out of their opponents late this year. But also the thing about Miami that I really don't like in comparison to Notre Dame. Again, you're comparing week 1 of the season. I understand you have to value each win and loss, but you also have to value when each win and loss comes. You're talking about week 1, which is basically as good as last year. When we look at everything that happened in week 1, when you look at Ohio State only beating Texas by 7, would never happen now. When you look at Florida State beating Alabama, would never happen now. And I think very similar, Miami beating Notre Dame in week 1 would never happen now. I think Notre Dame would be significantly head to head a favorite. Like I think there would be a 4.5, 5.5 point favorite on a neutral site. I think Notre Dame's a lot better than Miami. And the reason why I put Notre Dame in over Miami, the main reason why is the quality of losses. That personally matters to me. Miami lost to Louisville. Carson Beck had 4 turnovers. That was such an ugly loss. What's Notre Dame's worst loss? Is it to Miami, who again is a top 15 team in the country? Or is it against Texas A&M, who you could argue is a top 5 to top 8 team in the country by 1 point? Again, Notre Dame, I get it. If you want to say they haven't beat anybody, I really don't think Miami, besides beating Notre Dame in week 1, has really beaten much people either. ACC was super weak this year. I think their schedules are super comparable, but I think Texas A&M has the better losses. I know that will drive people crazy, that term, but it's true. That's why I have Notre Dame in over them. And I think right now the state of Notre Dame, I think, again, as long as Jeremiah Love's health is okay, I think they would lay over Miami. And I think that matters. Like the hypothetical spread is really what I base a lot of this on. Like who at this moment would be favored in a neutral site matchup? Like that's huge to me, in my opinion. Then we have Vanderbilt. Like Vanderbilt, the issue with Vanderbilt is one, there's just flat out not enough spots. And two, I get it, they play in the SEC, but their quality of win is just rough. Like, I think this Tennessee win was honestly their best win. Again, was a great win, but outside of that, their best win was like LSU. They don't have the quality of wins to be in my opinion. I think Vanderbilt is a really good team. I think, again, they're one of the first teams to get in if the college football playoffs was set different. Like, again, they're right outside. I don't really have much to say about them. Very good football team, but again, just doesn't have the quality of wins to get in just based on their schedule. And then we get into Texas. I thought what Texas did against Texas A&M was super impressive. Even though Art showed up, I thought it was insanely impressive how Texas defense contained that Texas A&M offense. I really thought Arch had his moment on that run. Again, do I think Texas is better than most teams in the college football playoffs? Yeah, I think out of these 4 teams on the outside, Texas, Miami, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma. Again, I did it based on what their resume is, but I think Texas is the best team out of the 4. Texas does have, again, quality wins. They have the best win against Texas A&M. My issue with Texas, and especially with the argument that Texas players has, like you're faulting us for putting Ohio State on the schedule. No, we are not faulting you for that. What we are faulting Texas for, in my opinion, is a couple of things. One, we're faulting Texas for losing to a 3-win Florida team. You take care of that, you're in. That's the major thing. It has nothing to do with Ohio State. You had a loss you shouldn't have had. Then on top of that, 2 overtime games against a bad Kentucky team and against a non-college football playoff contender Mississippi State team. Those are also bad on your resume. And then against Georgia, you couldn't stay in that game for 4 quarters as well. I get it, that game's a lot closer than the score says, but flat out coach going for it multiple times on 4th down when Georgia had the ball. And then the onside kick as well, stealing the possession. Like they couldn't stay in that game. It's a lot more than just scheduling Ohio State on your schedule. I get it. If you don't schedule Ohio State, definitely increases your chances of getting in. But you could have took care of business multiple times, and you did not. Again, I think Texas is the most talented team out of the teams on the outside. Now we are going to go over my 1 to 12 rankings officially, what I think is going to happen. So, one, I have Ohio State. Again, I think they lay over the field. I think they're a reason why college football to some people might not be as exciting this year because I think they are so much better than every other team. Then Georgia at 2. I think you got to put the SEC champion at 2. I think it gets the nod over the undefeated Big Ten team that's going to lose the Big Ten championship. I think you got to put the SEC team over them. I think it's going to be Georgia. Like I said, I think Georgia's at a better state than Alabama right now. And I think it's very hard to beat the same team twice. I'm putting Georgia at 2. At number 3, we have Indiana. Again, they're undefeated in a Power 4 conference. They have looked great all year. If their one loss is in a conference championship to the best team in the country that, like I said, lays over everybody, again, best loss you could possibly have if you could have a best loss. 4, kind of a hot take. I like Texas Tech there. I think Texas Tech is going to lay over BYU in this conference championship. I think it's only going to help them, obviously, with a convincing win like that. And again, I think they're so complete on both sides of the ball. I think they're so underrated. I think they really deserve the bye. If they don't, again, probably doesn't matter much because the 5 and 6 team, like we said, are also pretty much like a bye because you're going to play the ACC champion and the Group of 5 champion. So again, at number 5, I have Oregon. Again, might be a hot take. It's kind of just how the rankings go right now is how I've basically finished it out for the most part. Oregon, again, a lot of people have a hot take on Oregon. Oregon with their schedule, they were basically in like from the start. Their schedule was pretty weak. And I get it. They don't have any really great wins, convincing great wins. They lost to Indiana. Again, they made mistakes in that game. And then their best win is going to be Penn State, which again, I'm not underrating that win like a lot of people do. Penn State was at a different state at that time. And again, you got to look at wins and losses at the state that they happened. Penn State was a contender at that time. They were playing in the toughest environment in college football. They got the win. I still think that's a pretty good win. But again, with their schedule, they were basically in right away. At 6, I have Texas A&M. I think they slide over Ole Miss just because, again, with everything going on with Ole Miss, I think they might, again, put Texas A&M over them. Kind of a hot take. One loss SEC team. Texas A&M, great year. 7, Ole Miss. Again, I'm rooting for Ole Miss probably more than any other team in this college football playoffs. I think the storyline of them going on a run would be insane. I hate what happened to them. We're going to get into that in a moment. At 8, I have Notre Dame. I think they leapfrog over Alabama just, again, because of this conference championship loss. I think Notre Dame is absolutely legit. I think, again, outside of Ohio State, I think they could compete with anybody else in this field. I think Notre Dame is so good. I think CJ Carr has developed so great throughout the year. I don't think he makes mistakes. I think they have one of the best coaches in college football. I think they have a stud receiver, 2 stud backs. Again, I love Notre Dame in the trenches as well. At 9, we have Alabama. Again, over the last 3, I think they have to get in. I don't think you could fault the team for making an SEC championship and kicking them out. Alabama's going to get in my opinion. They come in at 9. They could come in higher if they do pull off this SEC championship. At 10, I know it's a hot take. It's probably not going to happen, but I just did it because I want to give respect to this team. BYU, one-loss team in a Power 4 conference. I think it's bad for college football if they don't make it. Also, they have a true freshman at quarterback. Look what he has done. I like it. And then 11, Duke, 12, North Texas. Those teams have to get in if they win their championship. So that's how I have the college football rankings panning out. Again, you guys can comment down below if you agree, if you disagree. I know we have some hot takes there. Now we're going to get into the Lane Kiffin saga. Let me take a breath because I have a lot to say about this. I absolutely hate the Lane Kiffin saga and what it means for college football. I said it. I think Lane Kiffin is a really good college football coach. I'm not denying that. But I think Lane Kiffin really just was kind of just at the right time pretty much based on all these head coaching vacancies and based on there just not enough quality coaching hires to fill the vacancies. I think Lane Kiffin, again, there was a huge demand for him. I said if I was Ole Miss, I wouldn't be trying to outbid and overpay. Lane Kiffin got a bag from LSU. There's no doubt about it. I heard Ole Miss was going to get pretty close or match any offer LSU had. I'm not 100% sure if that did happen. My issue with Lane Kiffin going to LSU is Lane Kiffin leaves every single time. His commitment to his programs over the years hasn't been there, in my opinion. When we look at again, Nick Saban firing him a couple weeks before the national championship because he's unprepared. He's looking ahead. When you look at the Raiders as well, Mark Davis wanted to take a back seat, wouldn't do it, obviously. Again, his commitment just hasn't been there. And my issue with LSU as well, if that Alabama job ever opens up, I think Lane Kiffin's walking out the door. I know that that's the job Lane Kiffin wants, is the Alabama job. Again, it just hasn't been right timing for him. Now, I have a huge issue with him leaving Ole Miss, going to LSU. I understand LSU is going to pay top dollar for Lane Kiffin. They needed him. I like that he took LSU over Florida. I think LSU is a better job over Florida. But when you look at Ole Miss in comparison to LSU, I said it in the episode this week that we brought out. I think, again, when you look at LSU from an alumni standpoint, they have better alumni, no doubt. When you look at LSU in recent years to Ole Miss, when you look at, I'm talking about like last 5, last 10, not the last 2 years, because you could argue Ole Miss has been better the last 2 years. But last 5, last 10, again, LSU has definitely been the better program. And LSU apparently did promise more NIL spending is what Lane Kiffin wanted. But when you look at building a program, when you look at Ole Miss having the best year arguably in their history, they're in a prime spot to win in the college football playoffs, and you leave, that's bad. Not only that, you could have had a statue built at Ole Miss. When you look at Ole Miss and you talk about NIL spending, I get it. NIL spending is huge. I said it time and time again. I think bringing the right players in via NIL transfer portal is more important than having an X and O guy. I think recruiting is more important than the actual coaching standpoint. I understand college football coaches wear way more hats in the NIL. I think bringing in talent is more important than X and O's. Is Ryan Day the best coach in college football? I think he's a really good coach. I'm not sure about that. But Ohio State has the most talent right now. I think bringing in talent in recruiting is more important than the actual X and O. So I understand Lane Kiffin's standpoint of wanting the most NIL money. But my issue is, like I said, you've proved that you can do it with Ole Miss. And I don't like the outsider's opinion saying Ole Miss doesn't have a pathway to a national championship. I think that is 100% false. When you look at Thumb in the SEC this year, they're a one-loss team in the SEC. The reason why I don't have a national championship expectation this year is because really nobody does. Because like I said, it's just a year where Ohio State lays over the field, in my opinion. But again, any other year, this team has as great of a chance as anybody. This should have a puncher's chance because, like I said, Ohio State is just so dominant. But I get it. You want the most NIL money, but it is proven that with the NIL money that Ole Miss gives you, you can compete for a national championship. That's proven. You have made this team better than when you got here. They're a true, in my opinion, national championship contender from year to year. So I think, again, from a job security standpoint and from the standpoint of, again, loyalty, not jumping ship, I think he made a huge mistake. Tremendous mistake. Because I'll tell you one thing, Lane Kiffin has 2-3 losses in the middle of the season in the next 2 years. He's back on the hot seat. That happens at Ole Miss. He has a lot more long-term job security. And like I said, in comparison, I get it. LSU, in my opinion, is the better job. But to leave Ole Miss, something that you built up, a team that's a true contender in the SEC, I don't think it's that much of a job leap. And again, we knew Lane Kiffin was leaving. If he wanted to stay at Ole Miss, he could have just said that. He could have just said that. But we had to stall it out like a LeBron decision. We knew once he didn't say that he was going to stay at Ole Miss, he was as good as gone. And I knew that was going to happen. I told you guys this in the beginning of the week last week because, again, way too many suitors. He has way too much demand. And again, Ole Miss was just bound to get outbid. Oh, God. Uh, I think it's horrible for college football. And I think, again, it's going to be very hard for coaching. I think it's very easy to move the deadline for players. You got to move the negotiations past the college football playoffs. It's just it has to happen now. Do I think Ole Miss made the right decision not letting him coach the college football playoffs, not letting him finish what he started? I know that's the argument. 100%. Ole Miss, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin decides to leave. You send him out the door. I don't care if Lane Kiffin, as your coach, improves your chances. He cannot coach. It can't happen. It cannot happen. You can't have another month of him looking at your players, looking at your staff. If the staff wants to go, let him go. Like, you can't have him around the facility for another month. You can't have him around the program for another month. And again, it creates more turmoil, in my opinion, with the players. Thumb having bitterness that he left. I don't think that's a good, stable environment. 100% agree with Thumb letting him go. Like, he cannot coach. He cannot continue to coach, continue to be recruiting, continue to have that turmoil. Like, again, bad situation. 100% agree with that. That really wraps my thoughts up on this Lane Kiffin thing because I really discussed this to you guys the whole way through. I think it's horrible. I really do. And again, when you look at the amount of buyouts in college football, I get it. Florida's kind of just had to happen, but going over the rest of the coaching hires, like very briefly, it's really bad in my opinion because you're buying out these coaches for again 30, 40, 50 million dollars and you're hiring these group of five coaches. Like, does a John Summerall deserve it? Yeah, 100%. But like, again, you have these 40 to 50 million dollar buyouts, and then you're not even guaranteeing that you have a better coach at the spot. Again, I think that's in a pretty bad state of college football as well. You're taking big risks. Group of five. Again, we've seen a ton of successes happen, but group of five to power four, again, it's not a guarantee. The one coaching hire that I really did like, and I told you guys the whole way through this college football season, I think people should be looking at him, was Will Stein to Kentucky. I think that's a beautiful hire. I was kind of hoping Will Stein could have held out for maybe a little bit better job. But again, he's in the SEC as a head coach. It is a pretty good damn job. And I think, again, what you have to pay Will Stein at is not the competition of, like, again, obviously like a Lane Kiffin or other head coaches because again, he's getting a promotion from coordinator to head coach. I think college football should go super young. I mean, when you look at Oregon with Will Stein, when you look at um, Ohio State with Brian Hartline, you're looking at, again, young up-and-coming coordinators, and then you're looking at people who really understand the new age of college football with NIL, with transfer portals. What Will Stein has done with that Oregon group, when you look at Dante Moore, um, Dylan Gabriel, Bo Nix, like making all those guys NFL quarterbacks. Again, I love the hire. Absolutely love it. I think Brian Hartline should be the next guy hired as well. Um, that's pretty much it, though. That wraps up this episode of Sloppy Saturdays. Drop down below, again, your thoughts on the coaching hires. Drop down below your thoughts on my prediction, updated prediction, I guess you could say, of the college football playoff bracket. That wraps up this episode of Sloppy Saturdays.